welcome. My name is Amelia. I'm a community manager for Ellie.Connect, and today I will be your host. And I'm here together with Delphine Van Hoecke. She is a PR and communication expert and founder of Loud and Clear. That's a PR and communications agency. And today we will talk about sustainable communication, or is it maybe sustainability communication? We will find out. But first, Delphine, let's introduce you. Who are you? Can you tell me something about your personal life?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Delphine. I'm a partner in crime of Steven, and I'm also a very proud boy mom from Luca. He's turning 9 on Friday. And Arthur, he's 6 years old, and I'm also a plus parent to Julie, who's 17 years old. I'm really passionate about stories in general. Since I was a little girl, I loved reading books. My parents had like these tapes, like a very big collection of tapes where you had people telling stories. So I was listening all the time.
It was pre-podcast area.
Pre-podcast area. So I'm a really big fan of podcasts too. So maybe that's why. And yeah, any kind of story actually. If it's a good story, like a good movie, theater, even ballet, they tell stories in other ways. And also like networking events. I love it. Some people hate it. I love listening to people tell stories about themselves or their company. And also, of course, in my professional life, it's very centrally or very key to what I do. I studied communications because, speaking, I thought I was going to be like a writer or a journalist. But I started my internship at an international PR agency in Brussels, and there a whole new world opened. It was like, okay, you need to take these stories of inspiring, innovative companies and get them out in the news, in the media, to reach their target audience. So it's like, wow.
So your first professional experience was
Spot on. Yeah, I was really, really happy. And I had the luck of always being able to work with companies that were like technology companies or really innovative industrial players, like really B2B. So for me, that's the people that really work on the future, on things and innovations that are not that mainstream yet. So yeah, and then afterwards did a few professional switches into other agencies and also SMEs, but always on the technology innovation side. And at one point I was like, okay, I need to just, I want to help other companies with, spreading their story, reaching their audiences. And that's why I started Loud and Clear, to be able to help companies tell their story.
So from your personal life into your professional life in one flow. The one flows into the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Very nice if you can do that.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's talk about communications now. That's what you do on a daily basis. I think most of us are familiar with the Netflix series Emily in Paris. Very, very nice to look at. Also about a young American woman working for a marketing and PR agency. But can we compare what she does to your job? How does your daily work looks like? What do you do on a daily basis?
Well, I wish I could say that it was like Emily in Paris, where everything is a dream and very glamorous.
But a lot of problems in her love life.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have that. But no, of course, everything there is like, it happens magically. But what my job mainly is crafting the story, like really like thinking about, okay, what are we going to say? What do we want to say? How do we want to reach our audiences? Because one story can be for different audiences. So you need to think about how to make it suitable for them.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to go to them via press, like in PR. That's what we do. We go to the right media, the right journalists to reach an audience. So it's thinking about, okay, who's best suited, what ingredients do we need to make a story appealing. That's also the thing that, yeah, I am really happy that I get warm inside. Just making sure that the story is like really targeted, and then you see the interview or the article being published and you think like, yeah,
we did a great job.
Yeah, we did a great job.
And do companies come to you with their message already made, or do you help shape that message also, that story?
It depends a bit on the company, because it also depends on what they're coming to us. Some people just come to us like, I have a product or a new office that's opening. That's pretty clear. Others are like, we want to start working on our key messaging. We know that it's important to communicate and get our story out there, but we don't really know how. And then you really need to help them see, like, okay, what stories are already inside your company, but are maybe not that clear to you. Or maybe you have really interesting projects or customers that you can use to showcase your thought leadership. And then, then they need a little bit more support. But in general, people know, like, this is what we stand for, and that's what we want to reach. Yeah.
And what does a typical day look like for you, or does that not exist in your job?
It's very flexible, my job. Sometimes I can say like, this is my day, and then something happens, and it's
I can imagine sometimes some crisis happens in communications, and then it's all focus on that. But other days it can be...
other days, what I like to take some time for, and that I take too little time for, it's going through the press. Because if you want to communicate, you need to know what they're writing about, what's going on, know what trends, breaking stories, and also connect it to the clients that you're working for. So that's something that I like to start my day with. Also listening to podcasts, the dates, Delphine van the date, always on my way to work. And then it's like, going through several client projects, taking time to really think about messaging and how to translate it into different stories or angles. Also contacting press, supporting people while doing an interview, because not everyone is very at ease doing that. And then if we have events, we follow up with press, be present at the events. So glamorous events like Emily in Paris, we sometimes have them, but it's not on a daily basis. And obviously it's very fun to, being able to talk to a lot of press at the same time. But that's a bit what we're doing.
Okay, and a lot of networking events also in the evening. Your evenings are filled with that.
I try to do that. I love to do that. But sometimes it's just too busy. But in the second half of the year, I always try to take some time to do that. Yes.
Because the most interesting ones are scheduled then, or why do you say the...
Because a lot of people in the second half of the year, there are some conferences that are really on marketing and communication. So I like to keep in touch with peers because you can learn a lot from their experiences. And otherwise, no, that's not really that it's so that it's more interesting events, but I feel that a lot of people then already have had the time to evaluate some trends, and then you just get other kinds of events than in the beginning of the year.
If you have a little look at your website of Loud and Clear, we see that you really specialize in sustainability communication, also amongst other specializations. Can you tell us why you decided to focus on that part of communications?
Yeah. Well, it actually happens quite naturally because we were supporting Go Forest, which is a tree accelerator in Belgium, but they have like projects all over.
They are really well known.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
Well, they also have Go Ocean recently.
Yeah.
It's doing the same, but with ocean life ecosystems underwater. So we supported them in their PR. They know how to communicate, and we give them tips on sustainability, but mainly to get their story also in the press. And there we actually learned from them, like a lot of customers, they're doing these nice projects, working with us, but they're so hesitant, or they don't really know how to communicate on the activities that they're doing with us. And I was like, because in other experiences, I also saw the same thing happening. Companies that are doing really nice things on a sustainability level, but that aren't really communicating about it because they don't know what's okay, what's not okay. Sometimes it's like too fluffy.
And sometimes they don't even consider it important to tell the story. Yeah.
Exactly. While you are like, why don't you communicate this? So realizing that, we decided to launch Go Loud, because that's our specialized brand, because it goes with Go Forest, Go Ocean, Go Loud, and others.
Right.
So to actually support companies and really like give them the confidence to start communicating, and also making them realize why it's important.
Yeah.
Because the inspiration that you give other people, like you guys also know that inspiring
very important.
peers is very important. Otherwise no one does anything.
No, so. That's true. And also during our conversation in preparation for this interview, you mentioned, do you want to talk about sustainable communication or do you want to talk about sustainability communication? There is a difference. And can you explain what's the difference?
Yeah, sure.
And why it's important to make that difference?
Yeah. Well, it's something that happens a lot. People just use the two terms interchangeably, while their meaning is how you communicate. So you communicate socially responsible, ecological, no bad impacts on economy, society, the planet. But sustainability communications is on what you communicate. So the communication on your own sustainable actions. So that's the difference. It's a small change in wording, but it's a very big impact. And that's how it is with everything in sustainability communications. It's about really knowing the definitions and making sure that you don't mean one thing and use another
terminology.
Yeah, exactly. Like, net zero and carbon neutral. It's also very much a different thing. Recycled or recyclable, also very different. And sometimes it's not because people are wanting to greenwash or make something more beautiful. It's just because they don't realize the difference and the nuances.
So it's important to make that point also, that there is that difference between wordings. It's a very important part of your job, I suppose.
Definitely.
And today a lot of in the area of communications about sustainability goals, there is a lot of change going on with the Green Deal, the greenwashing deal, for example, and you touched upon it already. But what sources do you use to keep yourself informed and up to date with those changes?
Well, I try to mix and match, like multi-layered information, because I think that gives you the best And
global view.
Global view, exactly. So first of all, obviously the policy making bodies, because that's where it starts, and where legislation and guidelines get created. So the European Commission, I'm subscribed to newsletters, follow their webinars, because it gives you a good insight. And also there's not a lot of structure and guidelines, but if there are any, they will be the ones sharing it, and it's always interesting to find out first and read that. Then secondly, also trade press or industry platforms. I really like the Sustainability Magazine and Sustainable Magazine and Sustainable Brands. It's very easy to remember also. It says what it is. And then also events of like networking organizations like the UN Global Compact, B Corp. That's also a good source. And then obviously I follow thought leaders, influencers on social media, because I think it's still the best way to really know how the audience and consumers react, also businesses. If you follow some big entrepreneurs, then you know how society thinks and how it reacts to the sustainability.
Yeah. And do you have a system to organize all this information? Do you keep it just in your mind? Do you know everything by heart, or do you have some kind of system to?
Well, usually I have this folder where I have like all the most important. If I think like this report is interesting or guidelines that I should really keep track on, just put it in a folder. But we also have our own course on sustainability communication. So for me, that's actually a very nice to have summary of everything that I need to know and remember. So I just keep on adding to that, and then like that, it's like my own personal Bible of how to do sustainability communications right, and which guidelines and sources that I need to check.
Okay, interesting. And you already talked about it. We can't talk about sustainability communications without mentioning greenwashing, also green hushing. Can you explain the difference, or maybe explain what is greenwashing, what is green hushing, what is the difference between it, and how are they linked?
Well, it's like two sides of the same coin, greenwashing and green hushing, because greenwashing obviously is one extreme. It's really being misleading and about your product or what it does, making it appear better than it is for the climate, being vague, saying, oh, it's planet friendly or it's green without really saying why or how. And then we have green hushing, which is like the opposite, because some companies, like really, really climate conscious companies who do like a lot and are on a very good, are really on a good way of on their sustainability path, they don't communicate because they're so afraid of the backlash or because they're uncertain. And it's really a problem because I'm gonna get a bit theoretical now, but
go ahead.
Also, a report that I read recently was South Pole's net zero report. They had like 4,000 companies that they interviewed, and it was 93% of the climate conscious companies, so who had a really good ESG sustainability strategy, said like, we think communication is so important for our commercial drive, you know, it drives our business. But those same companies, 70% said we're going to communicate less because of restrictions, legislation, really uncertainty. So
that's not a good trend. No,
it's a real issue.
Yeah,
and it's something that will need to evolve. I think with more clarity, more strict, not strict guidelines, but clear guidelines, so that people are very aware. Like, this is okay. This is not okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a pity if you see that happening.
That's not the right way to go. No.
No.
What strategy should a company follow to successfully transition to a more sustainable communication about their sustainability goals? Do you have some tools, some tips for people who want to start with that or who want to evolve with that process?
I think if you want to start out with sustainability communications, you first of all need to have a sustainability strategy. And that's where a lot of companies are now. Of course, you always have companies that are way more advanced, but now because of all the legislation coming, CSRD, reporting.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and companies are now starting to think about it and starting to, make teams within the company to think about ESG strategy, and that's really good. But I was at an event recently and...
Hi, this is Amélie, Community Manager for Ellie.Connect, interrupting just briefly your favorite podcast to ask you this question. Are you ready to make sustainability a priority? Are you ready to take concrete actions? Ellie.Connect offers you the network, the tools and the content to help you achieve just that. Go to Ellie.Connect.com and register today. But first, enjoy the rest of the episodes.
Ask them who's in your ESG team. No communication, people. And then I'm like, yes, but
Miss chance.
Yeah, it's also the thing that, that is really a hurdle with a lot of companies, because they have this beautiful strategy, they have data, they have their everything to put in their reports, but how to translate it towards their audiences, they don't think about that, because there's no one from the communications or marketing department, for that matter, who's saying like, okay, we have these tools, maybe we should implement a few things so that it's easy for us to communicate these, our milestones and our strategy towards our audiences and our stakeholders.
Yeah.
Communications, so that there's something that, so that it's something that is thought about. And then secondly, is to really have your narrative ready, because you can have a really nice strategy, but having like a concise narrative, a concise story, like this is our mission, vision, but on a sustainability
Point of view.
Point of view is also very important, because then you can say like, okay, we're going to communicate this to several audiences. Again, like I said at the beginning, it's some people or audiences will need different information, so then you can tweak it. Also, your internal stakeholders, don't forget about them, because everyone's always very focused on, I need to inform my customers, my shareholders, but your most important ambassadors are people who are working within the company.
Yeah.
So make sure that you communicate with them on a regular basis as well. And then, finally, make sure that you communicate regularly, but also consistently.
Yeah.
So that it's not like we do this now and then nothing.
On a consistent basis. And do you have some kind of, or maybe a company name or a company you say, oh, these guys really have a very good strategy about communications, about sustainability?
Well, I think if you look in the markets, like Patagonia is the greatest example. Volvo is also a very good example. Everything is really clean, sustainability at the core of their product, like in everything they do. Yeah. And are there challenges? I suppose in every company there are a lot of challenges about sustainability, but also about communicating about sustainability. I think the main challenge is, we touched upon it, is the fact that there's a need of clear guidelines and support. But I think if you want to...
What do you mean with support?
Well, maybe like have more frameworks that could support companies, because now it's like everything that has to do on reporting, there's a bit of a framework there, but not on a communication level. And I think communication is already very challenging for a lot of companies. And then the sustainability layer adds a lot more challenge to that. So I think, if there would be like clear
guidelines, a clear framework, like you say, it would be easy for.
It would be easier. Well, there's already a start with the greenwashing directive, and also like Belgian federal government has like these guidelines that they publish to help, make companies aware of the things to look out for. But still, it's not always crystal clear.
No, it's true. We have made a workshop on communication, sustainability communications, and it's not clear at all. There are some guidelines, but it could be better. Yeah, it could be more clear. That's for sure. What advice would you give to small businesses who don't always have the budget to also implement communications in their budget plan?
I think every company can start communications. It doesn't always need a big budget. I would just say, like, just start with it. Don't be afraid, especially that. Don't be afraid to get started. It doesn't have to be perfect from the start. I think like the main things are that you're honest. No one expects you to be like a super company getting everything ready, especially not when you're a smaller company. Some things you need budget for to do. But if you make that clear, and if you are very transparent on this is where we are now, this is what we want to do, and you communicate on the different steps that you're taking and the results, if you keep that, people will appreciate it, definitely.
Also, transparency is a big one in communication.
Yeah, exactly. And honesty is, the backbone of transparency. Also try to be as specific as possible. Try not to get into the trap of saying, oh, we are sustainable, or, say how much more CO2 you've reduced. Try to get as much data as you want.
Say it as it is.
Yeah. And then also try to find partners that can help you in communicating. There are, without a doubt, customers that can also support your sustainability story, or who can help you communicate it. You have a lot of own channels that don't cost anything, social media, newsletters. It's something that you can use to communicate on sustainability. And what I always advise every company is have one central place where you have all your information. And to me, that's most likely your website, where you have one page that shows your sustainability strategy, but also the steps that you're taking, where people can download information or your report, so that you can always refer to that. Because the thing is, the more restrictions there are, or the more uncertainty, then people don't write anything anymore. So if you have a post, then you can always say, like, you can go to this page and you can know everything about our strategy, about what we're doing to be a sustainable company, or be as sustainable as possible.
Yeah, that's a good tip,
Because otherwise, if you need to explain and
every word you use in the
it's impossible to do. So especially when you have products that have a long product life cycle, or if you really have to substantiate everything, it's not possible. Then it's the quick and quirky social posts will not be happening anymore. That would be like my number one tip, and it's doable for everyone. Everyone has their own website. It's like one page. It's
that's a very good tip for everyone, I think. Sustainability is becoming more and more important, as we all know, but a lot of customers still are not convinced of that importance of sustainability. And the mindset really has to shift still with some people. But what is your response to the idea that marketing teams have a very important role in helping to change that customers' mindsets?
I think marketing has a lot of power to shift mindsets, but it's very easy to say, like, you guys can now
have to do it
everything.
Yeah.
So I totally agree that marketing is and communications for that matter is a very good way of, you know, making people aware, changing that mindset, keep repeating, you know, this is how we're moving forward.
We have to hear a message, we have to hear it 7 or 8 times before we implement it.
Yeah, exactly. So it needs to come from a higher level. We can communicate or talk about the most beautiful story, but as long as it's not supported by the top level, it doesn't make any sense. It's going to be not trustworthy, people will not believe you, and it's gonna have the opposite effect of what you're aiming for. So yes, marketing can do a lot, but it's a collaboration with the top level who really needs to be convinced and implement it first within the company and within the business. And then you can start communicating very transparently and
to your customers.
Exactly.
And when we have a look at the future now, what do you think? How will the future of sustainability communication look like? Can you already spot some trends, maybe?
I think it's going to be very important for companies to start working on a dialogue with their customers, because now it's very much like, we will be doing this and we will be doing that. But customers, people are getting more sustainability savvy. You know, they will start spotting things like, this doesn't really, you know, how do you do that? Or are you sure that this is really sustainable? And the more people are aware of that, the more questions they will ask and the more critical they will come, hence the greenwashing. But the thing is, a really strong company or a company that's really confident in what they do and has that DNA should really like embrace that communication or that interaction, because you can learn so much from that feedback to what lives among your customers, what lives in society, how your company is perceived. So I think that's a trend that is really
positive.
Upcoming.
Not easy for the companies, but it's a positive change.
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you think the role of communication agencies will evolve in that whole story?
I think now, at the moment, we're really asked to think about storytelling, whereas, you know, we're not yet in the strategic planning. So I think that could be one role for us, because some companies are too small to have an entire team, so they can have an agency. And on the other hand, also trying to navigate all the legislation and all the guidelines, because it's like you say, where do you keep all the info? Because it's a lot. And if you have like a small team, or you need to have one dedicated person, but not everyone has the possibility to do that. So then you have specialized agencies who can do that for you and make sure that your sustainability communication is on point and correct.
So there's a bright future for you guys.
Yes.
A lot of work to be done, I suppose.
Yeah.
Delphine, if you had 1 minute to address the community, what would you like to say?
Well, I would advise them to just do it, like Nike said. It's the best moment to start with sustainability communications. Don't be afraid, and if you're hesitant, get help from an expert. And additionally, also make sure that there's someone who's responsible for that sustainability communication, and make sure that that person gets time to do so, because it's not something that you just take along in your function. It's something that you really need to get the time to do right. So yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, I think we established that communication is key also, and maybe certainly if it concerns sustainability. So thank you, Delphine, for this nice conversation.
Welcome.
And I would like to thank you, listeners, to listen to this episode and to watch this episode. And we will be back next month with another interesting episode. If you are a fan of the Ellie.Talks podcast, make sure to give us a like or leave a positive review. And remember, there's plenty more inspiring content on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify or YouTube. We hope to see you there.